The train rattled on, a metal snake winding its way south. Each chug carried me closer to Kerala, to home. My fingers worked instinctively, shaping the discarded rice husk into tiny animals. A cow for Malu, my little sister. A fierce tiger for myself. The rhythmic clatter of the tracks was a lullaby to my memories. I closed my eyes, the scent of the husk filling my senses, transporting me back to the sun-drenched fields of my childhood. The years melted away, my degree certificate feeling heavy in my bag, a symbol of the distance I had traveled, both physically and metaphorically. Would everything be the same? Would the air still be thick with the fragrance of my mother's coconut chutney? Would the gentle breeze still carry the melody of my father's voice as he guided the oxen through the paddy fields? I opened my eyes, a lump forming in my throat. Only time would tell. My village. Even the word evoked 1,000 vivid images. I remembered the endless stretches of emerald green paddy fields shimmering under the golden sun. My father, his weathered face etched with the wisdom of the earth, would stand tall amidst the swaying stalks, his calloused hands guiding the oxen with an ancient understanding. My brother Rajan would be there too, his laughter echoing through the fields as he skipped ahead, his thin arms struggling to carry a bundle of tender saplings. We would race each other along the narrow ridges, our bare feet sinking into the cool mud, the scent of the earth filling our lungs. And in the heart of our humble home, amidst the comforting aroma of spices and wood smoke, my mother would be patiently stirring a pot of rice. Her love, as warm and comforting as the worn cotton sari she draped around her slender frame, would nourish us all. These were the memories that sustained me, the threads that connected me to my roots, even as I journeyed further and further away in pursuit of my dreams. The air, as I stepped off the train, was no longer filled with the familiar fragrance of my mother's meal. Instead, a strange, almost clinical smell hung heavy, the scent of latex. It was the first sign that things were not as I had left them. Gone were the paddy fields of my childhood, replaced by rows upon rows of rubber trees, their dark green leaves a stark contrast to the vibrant emerald of my memories. Interspersed were the slender betel nut palms, their crowns heavy with clusters of green nuts. Even our humble home, once nestled amidst a sea of green, now stood dwarfed by a strange, hulking machine. It was a sheet rubber mangle, my father explained, his eyes shining with a mixture of pride and something else I couldn't quite place. He spoke excitedly about progress, about new opportunities. Overhead, a helicopter clattered, spraying pesticides on the rubber plantation, a stark contrast to the gentle hum of dragonflies that had been the soundtrack to my childhood. The world was changing, and my village with it. The familiar scent of the paddy fields had been replaced, but there was a new energy in the air, a sense of progress, of hope. My father, once a master of the oxen, was now learning the intricacies of rubber tapping, his hands, still calloused but now stained with latex, adjusting to new tools. As I watched him explain the workings of the mangle, a sense of pride welled up in me. My father, a man who had spent his life tied to the land, was adapting, evolving with the times. The paddy fields may be gone, but the spirit of my village, the resilience of its people, remained. I looked at the rows of rubber trees, no longer with a sense of loss, but with a newfound understanding. Growth, I realized, often came disguised as change. And as I inhaled the scent of latex, I knew that I, too, had grown, had changed. The journey back home had not just been about returning to a place, but to a version of myself I had left behind. The boy who had left to chase his dreams was back, but he was no longer the same. He was home, but he was also ready to embrace the future, a future that smelled faintly of latex